Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills and today I'm joined by Sam Williams.
Hello.
And Sir Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Howdy.
Nice haircut, Bruce.
Bruce has had a
lockdown lid.
Did you just do round the sides and back and then just would you have like 5 minutes to do it or something?
Just failed to fade it. Yeah, it's almost as bad as my fade out on the course. No, it was just it was getting too long and a bit too unruly. I got my brother to trim it. And yeah, it's more functional.
Bloody
now,
hell, trim it. Well,
looks terrible. Yeah, we just went
is
aggressive with the number 3.
Is your bro a full-time hairdresser?
Yeah.
No,
Unfortunately not. No, a career in hairdressing isn't beckoning. But thankfully, this is audio only, and we're not doing a vodcast. So I'm
very
listeners in
aerodynamic.
suspense.
Yeah, very aerodynamic. Very nice, mate.
Very asymmetrical. Yeah.
How are you, Tom?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm staying alive considering the current boredom that we're getting, but trying to stay as busy as I can do, which is doing very little, to be fair. And Sam, how are you doing?
Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
It's very boring, isn't it?
Withdrawal symptoms from golf. Although, we're obviously going to talk a little bit about Abu Dhabi. That was pretty entertaining today.
But before we jump into that, as always, guys, you can get in touch with us on @CookieJarGolf on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And shameless plug.
Renaissance tomorrow.
Today, isn't it?
We are recording this pod on a Sunday, aren't we? So,
but it's going to be dropped
on live. Yeah.
So for the clarity of our listeners, if you listen to this pod on Monday, Renaissance will be live at 7 p.m. tonight.
There you go. That makes it easier.
If you're not listening to this podcast on Monday, because it will have been published on Monday, and you're listening to it on Tuesday or any day thereafter, go over to YouTube, check out Renaissance.
There we go. That made life easier.
Very eloquent and smooth as always.
That's right.
So,
you're done with your ad breaks now? You're done with your adverts? Are we ready to roll?
Well,
on pod?
the sponsors pay their money. They've got to be fulfilled, haven't they? Got to fill the copy.
Go for it.
Abu Dhabi. How do we find the viewing of Abu Dhabi?
Deathly silence.
I thought it was a bit of a victory lap, the back nine, but it was pretty sweet to see Rory, Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrell Hatton teeing it up as the leading 3 going into the last round, I thought. Hats off to hat on. It was different level stuff that today.
That is minging. I'm not having that.
What?
It's awful.
Well, you don't like that?
Hats on.
That's the kind of thing that Ewan Murray rehearses every, pre 70-second hole on a major when someone's just about to be crowned.
It was just a moment.
Jason's day finally or something. Hats off to hat on. Yeah, you get out.
Magnificent. Okay. McIlroy does it again.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, yeah, that's alliteration, but fair. The pun was poor quality. I'll give you that.
But the sentiment was correct. Yeah, I mean, he is. I sound like a broken record here, but he is establishing himself as just, a world-class player, isn't he? In every respect, someone who can go out and win on the PGA Tour. Someone who, I think it's almost fair to say, he's almost dominated on the European Tour over the last 12 months or so, winning a couple of flagship events, several Rolex
series events.
I mean, yeah, he is.
Do it, won't it?
He is. And he's just. He just doesn't seem to really have a weakness. Like, even when it looks like Rory opens up with a hot start, a couple of quick birdies, and you think, oh, Hatton might implode now when he's, alongside such a prolific winner and someone who is known for unbelievable ball striking, who might intimidate him. And no, like, he just kind of holds his own and starts rattling off birdies. And yeah, as you say, Sam, it's just a victory lap on the back nine. It's just remarkable what a year he's had, or past 12 months he's had, I should say.
Did you see they're all jumping on board with the sort of anger management thing? Matt Wallace was doing it quite a lot. Did you see this European Tour skit they did?
Yeah. I thought it was decent. Like, obviously it's a little bit wooden, but they're not professional actors. I did, on that note though, the Wallace thing's interesting because there's been a huge number of caddies that have been kind of changing around. I don't know if you guys noticed this.
I didn't know he was flying through caddies. I heard that he's got Lordy now.
Yeah, so
Wallace.
Justin Rose
I didn't
has
even
got
know that at all.
Exactly, yeah. So Justin, I noticed this a couple of days ago when I think Rose put something on his Instagram and his caddy's in the background. I can't say I recognised him. I guess he's, a well-known name or someone who's well-respected on the PGA Tour, but there's nothing out there online. Like I Googled it and no one's really talking about the fact that Gareth Laws are no longer with Rose and that he's moved on to Matt Wallace. And is it Dave McNeely who was with Matt Wallace has moved on to someone else? So there's quite a bit of change afoot.
There's a bit of movement between Stenson and Rose, wasn't there?
In what sense? Stenson's not carrying Rose's bag, is he? Surely things haven't got that bad. Should be the other way around.
Johnny Longsocks, he was caddying for Rose for a bit, wasn't he? And he moved off Stenson.
Who Gareth Lord? No, Gareth Lord.
Johnny Longsocks he's talking about, who caddies for Casey.
Right.
So Casey's caddies Johnny Longsocks.
I've lost the plot, mate. Ignore me.
Yeah, you've lost it. Just to clarify, Mark Fulcher was Justin Rose's caddy for about 11 years. He then had to have heart surgery and was kind of out of commission for a bit, at which point Rose started working with Gareth Lord, who was formerly Stenson's caddy. But interestingly, Mark Fulcher is now working with Francesco Molinari. Molinari, got rid of his long-time caddy. So there's quite a bit of change there. And I think some of the other guys, Marcus Armitage and a few other guys, there's been changes going on. So, yeah, I'm kind of interested what the thinking is behind that. But
like you say, it's not covered, though. We've gone off on a tangent here slightly. We'll bring it back to Tyrrell, I'm sure, in a second. But, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the caddies and stuff. Like, there's never a truer word said, a lot of truth said in jest or whatever you'd say. And the fact that Wallace was sort of primed in that European Tour skit has been someone who's going through caddies at a fast clip. I genuinely didn't know that, particularly given the guys literally come through from, was it Euro Pro Challenge Tour onto the European Tour, was featuring majors, playing great golf. He's probably had a slump's probably the wrong word, but he hasn't, the ascendancy's not continued at the same rate, but it's kind of plateaued, hasn't it? But wouldn't explain necessarily a massive cycle change in caddies, but yeah.
What do you think to the rest of the sketch, Sam? Because I'm conscious that I kind of hijacked that and went off on my own tirade about caddies. But
I was actually more talking about
that was cool,
the sketch to do with the fact that Matt Wallace was actually giving the thumbs up on the course as well. Do you not like?
No,
he
Tyrrell
carried it through into the. No, Matt Wallace was doing it on the course.
Oh, was it?
He's missing putts and stuff. He was doing the thumbs up, smiling and thumb up and stuff, which I thought they carried it on. And Tyrrell did it as well a couple of times in the course, which I thought was quite a nice little.
What about Pepperell?
Before we move on from Wallace, though, let's leave that there. Before
his lid was
Wallace,
worse than mine, actually, in that sketch. His lid was worse than mine.
Absolutely abhorrent liddage.
He was going, slicked back Elvis Presley thing.
He was the one who actually looked the most comfortable, because obviously they were, it's all acting, isn't it, and play acting and stuff. And I don't know whether Eddie Pepper wants a little career in amateur dramatics, whatever, but he seems to sort of fit into the part quite nicely, I thought.
But he likes the limelight, doesn't he?
Loves it.
So, before we move on from Wallace, because I'm sure this is the last time we're going to talk about it, do you think that he'll get into the Ryder Cup team this year?
I don't know where he is on the rankings, to be fair. He's not picking up huge numbers of finishes.
Well, the question
I remember seeing today, that's the first time I've seen him for a while really contend in something.
Well, in the immortal words of Cow Wing, we have to ask, has he learned finally after all this time? Has he served his apprenticeship? Has he served his apprenticeship on the European Tour? It's true, though. I mean, he has obviously been known to be a bit petulant in the past and just, kind of loses rag a bit.
Shit. So he's right on the cusp at 50 as well. So
he's 50th, but he's 11th European. So he'd be out of the automatic selection.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, he's going to start, if he drops further south, he'll start missing events as well, won't he?
Where did he finish today, though? Sorry to put you guys on the spot.
He was about 10th, wasn't he? Or something, 10 under or something.
He finished T7.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so step in the right direction.
I think he'd be a great Ryder Cupper. Just before, that's why I thought about wanted to talk about. I think he'd be a fantastic Ryder Cupper. I think he's got the
Passion.
mentality for it. Yeah, he'd be good.
Can we talk a little bit more about Hatton then? So
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know whether a lot of people sort of, talk, he's going to go on to big things. I think I heard a few of the sort of commentary says, he's a rising star. I'm not sure you could call Tyrell Hatton a rising star, given that he's now picked up his 5th Rolex Series event. I think those points will now put him circa 6th world ranking place.
He's more like a risen star.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's rising. I wouldn't say it's like all of a sudden people are sort of saying, you heard about this kid Tyrell Hatton? He's coming out of nowhere. This guy apparently he's playing great golf. He is lethal. Ryder Cup, the kind of clutch putts, his intensity, the fact that he doesn't seem to have a flaw in his game. He's a force to be reckoned with in any event.
Bruce, as our resident swing dude, what do you see in Tyrrell's swing that is making him so consistent? Because if you look at the stats from today, or the Abu Dhabi in total, no one made more birdies than Rory McIlroy. But it just goes to show that it's not about how many birdies you make. Because if you make loads of bogeys as well, you don't win. And Tyrrell just seems to be just super consistent. And that's why he's always at the top. What do you see anything in the swing that would indicate that consistency?
No,
probably the opposite.
He's actually
has a horrible swing.
Well, yeah, you got to be careful. I think when you say he's got a horrible swing, because there's some people out there that say, "Oh, he's got a horrible swing," but actually, when you break it down, it functions very well. Like Matt Wolff isn't an easy swing. It isn't easy on the eye for a lot of people. They think it's kind of just a bit weird and wacky outside the line, but when you boil it down to what he's doing in transition and delivery, it's world class. And with Tyrrell, there's bits of it that look a little bit ugly. There are bits of it that aren't great on your longevity or your kind of spinal health. People would talk about his early extension and the fact he has quite a restricted hip turn on the way back and gets a little bit lifty, and essentially has to make more compensations through delivery than a lot of other people of his caliber need to make. It's interesting because Tommy Fleetwood, just looking at the stats there, he I think I'm right in saying that he's been top 4 greens in regulation on the European Tour over the last 4 years or so. In the rankings of green and regulation on tour. Yeah. And you can kind of see that with Tommy Fleetwood because he does swing the club really well. And a lot of people see him as a model or a blueprint, I guess, when they're coaching young players. Just from what you see out there, there's a lot of coaches on Instagram who really like Tommy Fleetwood's swing. And you couldn't say the same for Tyrell Hatton. But he makes it work really well. And he's certainly not the only guy out there who makes a kind of unconventional action, which is maybe a little bit more reliant on timing. He's made it his own, and he's very effective with it. So all power to him. But
for sort of swing idiots like me, I would assume that, like you say, if you've got more moving parts and more compensations in a swing, that when the pressure comes on, there are more fracture points, I suppose. Yeah. Everyone looks at Rory as having this gorgeous, world-beating swing. That's the best swing in the world. And, when it boils down to it, when the pressure's on, Rory's not super famous for overcoming adversity and grinding out big wins. And Tyrrell's starting to become the player that you're like, yeah, just when it comes down to it, it's a bit of a grind. I fancy Tyrrell.
Yeah, I'd come back on 2 points there. Firstly, I'd say a lot of coaches who really know what they're talking about would look at Rory's swing and say it's great for hitting driver really well. It's great for hitting high long irons. Actually, when you get down to wedges and short irons, there's stuff in there that, explains why he's inconsistent. And yeah, it looks really nice on the eye, but there's some technical trade-offs that he makes which allow him to hit the longer clubs really well and nice and high and a long way for a guy who's 5'9". But when he gets down to wedges and hitting mid-distance wedges and things, he struggles. But then there's the other, great quote from Bob Rotella, who said, it's not swings that hold up under pressure, it's people. And ultimately, there's guys like Webb Simpson. Webb Simpson, you could probably make the case that he has the most sort of defective
swings that are punching above their weight, perhaps.
Yeah. A kind of defective swing or swing that features the most compensations out of anyone in the top 10 in the world. And yet he's performed really well over the last few years, hasn't he? I mean, he's won the Players, he's won the US Open, he's won a bunch of other tour events. He's kind of like Tyrrell in that, he's just pretty good under the gun. And Rory, as good as his swing is, there's maybe just some mental clutter in there that holds him back. He's a really streaky player, isn't he? I mean, there's times where you just think, is he going to go and win this thing by 15 like he did with the Canadian
Rory?
Open? Yeah. Or is he gonna throw this one away?
I think
Sam, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that thing that was someone was saying like Rory was going to have the yips by the time he was 33 or something?
Oh, this is the SOMAS video. This is the
because of the driver.
Maybe we can put a
swing.
link to this thing on our website. I think it's arguably one of my favorite swings. Bruce, this is the one with the ketchup on the hands, if you remember.
Yeah. No, it's clickbait stuff for sure. They broke down Tiger Woods as well, didn't they? Saying catastrophic.
And they do it through like the keyboard voice, like the keyboard narration or whatever. It's weird.
Yeah. It's like Alexa from 20 years ago, isn't it? I mean, there are a couple of, I would say there are a couple of points in those videos that are valid, but there's other stuff in there that's just totally bunk, as you would say, Sam.
Yeah, we have to put a link to it on Twitter and the website. But let's not move off Tyrrell just yet, because it was a shame to see the sort of Tommy Fleetwood and Rory slip away, but it was genuinely a masterclass today, wasn't it? I mean, it was just, he was a class above everybody else.
We shot
it's
6
the confidence in front, yeah. And it was almost error-free. Like, I think Rory came at him quite early doors. There was a good spell of birdies to begin with. And then I think the one time Till was in trouble, he managed to he kind of just made par out of nowhere, and then just absolutely went on a streak with the flat stick. I think he made a great birdie on 8, I think 8, absolute tram liner on 10, on 9 rather, and then another epic putt over kind of like what was a really awkward little shoulder on the green, and he holed that thing that was going in quite hot. And I thought, this guy's just playing with so much confidence, and you it's kind of back to your point. I think you look at Rory and you sort of think, I think that's why he's such a difficult player to watch, because when he turns up and he's on form, he's just unbeatable. But then equally, just kind of watch him sometimes in days like today, and you just think nothing's really happening. You can't see him holding a putt. You can't really see him doing much. Whereas Tyrrell just seemed to kind of quietly go about his business. There was no histrionics. There's no kind of like bad temper or anything like that. And he just kind of, confident intensity, I suppose, like whatever you'd call it, just kind of outclassed him, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and maybe I'm going to expose myself and sound very stupid, because I don't think the stats have been done yet. But for this final round, the stats haven't been done at least. But with Rory, you look at his first round, and he just gets the rake out and starts pouring in putts from everywhere, and was heavily strokes gain, positive strokes gain with his putting. And then second round shoots even par, has a really good third round, comes out today and he goes, he pars the first, has a couple of birdies, rolling in a nice one from probably 20-25 feet on the third, then hits a decent iron shot into 4 that just carries a bit too far and misses like a 3-footer, 3-putt. And it's just like, whoa, you can almost see the wind going out of his sails there, because he's kind of off to a really, really solid start, and yet, misses a short putt. And that doubt then, I think, for the rest of the round is kind of, it's there, and it's very hard for him to kind of overcome. Whereas with Tyrrell, like, he got off to a much, much steadier start. But even when he got out of position, he made those key up and downs and those key pars to keep the momentum alive, which I think was ultimately the difference, really.
One of the things I thought about as well watching this stuff this weekend was, you've talked about it before, haven't you, Tom? Regression to the norm. Do you want to kind of explain roughly what that means?
Regression to the norm is...
Isn't it regression to the mean? Isn't it regression to the mean?
The mean, the normal...
Well, the mean is the norm, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah. But the regression to the mean is like... So there was a study done where you get say, let's talk about, I don't know, like a kid kicking kicks at goal in rugby. Right, let's think of it like that, right? Every time this kid kicks it through the posts, and that's a successful kick, they gave him praise, well done. And then the next time he kicked, he'd miss. Okay, so he's done poorly after praise. And then equally, they did a study where they did the opposite. Instead of praise, they shouted at them when it went wrong. So when they missed the kick, they'd shout at them and say, "Fuck's sake, you're really shit. Why are you missing this kick?" And then the next time he gets it over. So there's this philosophy that if you shout at people, they perform better. And if you praise them, they perform worse. But actually what's really going on statistically is people are just trending back to the mean performance, which is 1 out of 2 times he was likely to get it. So when Rory goes out and shoots 6 under, it's probably slightly better than on round 1. It's slightly better than his mean score around there. Then next round he gets an even par, which is worse than he would do because and then the next time he goes out, he shoots another 6 under, and then the next time he comes out. But it's all regressing to around about a 3-4 under. But that's the average performance at the time. Now, that's lots of words, but essentially it means that people can be up and down. Rory is someone whose standard deviation is a long way from the mean. So he will perform really badly and then really well, but the overall performance is what he gets. Tyrell performs a lot closer to the mean every time he plays. There's not so much variation in the way he plays, but essentially it's all regression to the mean. That's
and also powerful when you look at Fleetwood as well.
Everyone's turned off the podcast there. Literally everyone.
No. There'd be like Fleetwood's kind of in the mix there as well, because he started off really poorly. So much so, Tom, I think you were saying,
I was saying
he might have nothing happening this weekend. Why don't you see if you can make contact for a Sunday afternoon podcast? And yeah, actually then just played lights out golf. And a lot of that kind of, I don't know, that kind of curve of performance and stuff. What you're saying, Tom, is ultimately over a 4-day tournament, it's people just constantly regressing back to the kind of the mean number.
Yeah, it's just these outline. The term refers to the outline performances, and if you perform extraordinarily badly, which I'm not saying extraordinarily badly, but I'm not saying Tommy Fleetwood's first round was extraordinarily bad, but it was bad for Tommy Fleetwood. And then when he goes back out next time and shoots lights out and makes the cut, and then he's in the final group by the end of round 3. So these players it all comes out in the wash, doesn't it? If they got the class, they'll pull through. And the thing about Rory that you just can't deny is that he is in the top 5, but he's in 3rd today, but he's in the top 5 every single week. Every time he tees up the ball, he's like top 5, top 10. Like, he's just not getting over the line recently.
Yeah, and that's where, just to push back on your, like, I know I like the statistical stuff, and I don't know whether the regression to the mean stuff is kind of heavily supported by the Lou Stagners and the Scott Fawcett's of the world. But yeah,
it is. That's it. That was the but.
I just I don't know if it captures all the little emotions that go through a player's head when they're in contention going into the final round of a huge event like the HSBC or a major, or they just haven't won in a while. And with Rory, it's tough because if someone's finishing in the top 5, there just aren't there aren't many guys on tour who just finish in the top 5, top 10 repeatedly and yet don't get it across the line, or go a long period without getting it across the line as Rory's done.
He's got that weird freaky stat as well, hasn't he? So I think the last 8 years he's finished top 5 in the first event of the season played 7 out of 8 times. He's never won one of them. It's like weird freaky stat like that, and he just seems to feature, doesn't it? Particularly start the season. I don't know. There's just so much kind of debate as to why Rory doesn't seem to get more done. I just think, I always say, we look at Rory and you think when he's on, he's so good that people just expect he's got that button that he can push and just eviscerate anyone else kind of in the field. But it almost never happens. Like,
it's tough to live up to, isn't it?
Yeah. I think so.
Just briefly to round out Abu Dhabi, a couple of notable omissions from the weekend, or people who didn't make the cut. Lee Westwood, defending champion. Well, I say made the cut. Finished quite far down the pack, didn't they? Really, considering the caliber of the golf.
Lee Westwood made the cut, but was the penultimate.
Yeah. Rose
who made the cut.
Rose doesn't. Rose is
cut.
off piste, isn't he, at the moment? I didn't realise Rose is getting. They were sort of saying. I think the term twilight was used in reference to where he's at in his current career. Which I thought
saying
was
that
punchy. I think that was Doherty.
Really?
I thought that was really punchy because I thought he's not that old, is he, Rose? What would he be, about 37?
He came out with a couple of shocking lines. I normally like what Doherty has to say on Sky. He usually, hits the nail on the head, but he came out with some shocking lines the past. Brilliant, put me on the spot. Yeah. Well, okay.
Well, no,
you're the evidence-based guy.
This is now going to seem trivial.
You've now got Doherty's career in your hand here, Bruce. So that's why I just want you to sort of attack it with a level of specificity that it deserves.
Sorry, do you want to say that again?
Specificity.
Okay, this is going to seem really minor, but I think if you're a broadcaster and that's your full-time job, you've got to get these minor details correct. He was talking earlier, okay, I'm going to just stop there because I think he's culpable on many fronts, and this statement hopefully shows that. He said, yeah, that new face balance putter that Rory's put in the bag is just leading to a much better stroke, really carefree and even back and forth. I think this was after he held the 20-footer, 25-footer on the third. Stroke looks really good, putting a lot better because of it. And it's the same model that has been in his bag for like 2-3 years. So that's a misrepresentation in the first place. And second of all, he's just lumped down the commentator's curse. He's just lumped down the commentator's curse and sort of said he's putting fantastically now. He's putted really well this week.
And then to call it when something's going well or bad. Like, I mean,
he's 3 holes in and he's got a reputation of being a streaky putter. I just thought it was a bad take from Nick. But
do you not think that
early season, isn't it?
That Doherty just signing up with TaylorMade might have something to do with the fact he's talking about how Rory's TaylorMade face balance putters made the big deal in that stroke?
But don't make it seem like this is just a new addition to his bag or newsworthy. The guy won the first week he put it in the bag at Bay Hill in 2018. Yeah, we're almost 3 years into almost 3 years into this into this.
He is, but he was a big change. He went through a load of different putters about 2 years ago, didn't he? Do you remember? He was always a blade guy when he first came out, wasn't he?
I'm pretty sure he's been using.
Doherty. I don't subscribe to this, Bruce. But
I like Doherty.
I think there's far worse pundits out there, and I think the European Tour do a pretty good job on the coverage. I don't want to kind of get into too many coverage takes, but I think on the whole they do a pretty good job. And yeah, I mean, like Christ, I mean, you called him out on something there that's pretty specific. I'm sure there's other instances, and we probably haven't got time. This isn't his annual appraisal we're leading, so I think. But I kind of. Yeah, maybe some truth there, but I quite like him. You do too, don't you, Tom?
I'm a Doherty fan. I think he brings an element of freshness to that team that wasn't there previously. And I mean, like Sam says, there's a lot worse out there, definitely.
Yeah, I'm a Doherty fan. I'm just saying, you got to keep these people honest, haven't you?
But you kept him on the money, and he'll be listening to this tomorrow when he's sat there having a little Mai Tai around the pool in Dubai, and he's going to bloody kick himself when he hears you talking about that. Now, one thing I want to do because
I'm a detailed person.
There you are, exactly. Now, one thing I want to talk about.
Commentary. One final thing on commentary. Sorry to jump again. I'm in
a
particularly argumentative mood today, Sam. Not to flog a dead horse, because I think everyone's sick of having politics and wider political debates regarding the election in America or woke political culture coming into the golf world. But was there much? Did you guys detect much in the Sky coverage related to Justin Thomas and his being dropped by Ralph Lauren? Did that kind of feature at all? He obviously had a very poor tournament, didn't he? He missed the cut, I think. Seemed very out of sorts.
Well,
did they mention it much?
Justin Thomas is someone I've had a little scan through into next week who is not in the field for Dubai. So it's a long way to come to miss the cut, isn't it? I mean, he's obviously still been affected. To answer your question, Bruce, I didn't hear much in the way of talking about his drop from Ralph Lauren. And we haven't had a chance to talk about this as a three. I don't know. It's a really tough one for him. Like, he's made a mistake. Sam and I talked about it on the last pod. It just feels like it's affected him long term. Like, there's no excuse for it. He shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have said it. But certainly feels. I mean, Justin Thomas is a world class player, and you don't go out and shoot even over 2 days around a golf course like that.
There's got to be a bit there.
No, Sam, you were saying earlier you reckon you could have shot 4 under, couldn't you, around there? So.
Putting words in my mouth. For the benefit of our listeners, I never said any of that. That's absolute garbage coming at you from the man.
Although he did say about 10 months ago that he could beat Phil Mickelson around our home course because he was driving it so badly and his golf didn't stack up. But
doesn't stack up. It doesn't stack up. Now, I'm going to have one quick word on the Justin Thomas thing, and then I'm going to talk about Jason Scrivener, who is, I think that's a really important thing we should cover. But I did think it was very nice that McIlroy, when he got there, he came out and he was very, very clear with the media about the Justin Thomas stuff. I know they probably, they get on well and all that good stuff, but I thought it was quite refreshing to see the way McIlroy just kind of covered that in the media. I think quick, short statements that says, well, it looks like, professional golfers these days need to be, essentially perfect human beings, and then just moved on. I thought that was quite a nice way to cover what is a fairly complex issue.
Yeah, here.
So Jason Scrivener, second place in the end, shot 29 on the back 9. Do you know how much extra cash that put in his pocket from where he was stood on the 10th tee?
I can guess.
For the 219th golfer in the world, that's worth 750k extra.
Oh my word!
So he has had an absolute worldie there, hasn't he?
I don't like to fact check like Bruce does, but I'm looking at his prize money as 710. So he'd have to
I'll walk it back slightly.
He's going to be
a second. No, I'm working on dollars. Are you looking at sterling?
I'm looking at euros. He won 710.
Oh, that's why.
Euros.
I'm looking at dollars. I'm looking at dollars on this. It's 883,000. I'm trying to put it in currency.
He shot 7 under 29 on the back 9, right?
Yeah, 7 under 29.
Finished 14 under.
Solo
finished
second.
14 under. So just to clarify, you were saying people who finished 7 under were
100k. Yeah,
that's 100,000 euros.
And dollars, roughly, give or take.
Dubious at best. He did very well.
Skim the numbers, but that's a massive result for him.
No, I can imagine it's in the sort of scale of hundreds of thousands of dollars he's picked up as a result of that. Yeah, I wonder whether it was going through his head. I mean, would be quite interesting to hear his sort of take on that hole by hole, whether he's even thinking about it.
For a player who is 220th in the world, I mean, by definition, you're not at the top of leaderboards all that often. So, I mean, it's a Rolex Series event. Hatton's picked up over €1 million, 1.1 million euros. So as he sort of lights at him down the back 9, I mean, he's got to be in his head, hasn't it? Like, just thinking, Christ, I mean, everyone was falling off. At the point he finished, I think he was cleared second by at least 2 shots, because I think McIlroy was down at 12 under and Fleetwood had dropped as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's got to be in his head. What a performance for the 219th player in the world. It's quality, isn't it?
Thought it was pretty good. It definitely needed mentioning, put it that way. So why should we talk about Tiger, Doc?
Yeah,
sure. Now you're going to have to tell me about it, because I haven't seen it yet.
First off, I'm amazed you haven't watched it. I can't believe, for a man who doesn't seem to do much with his days, hasn't managed to carve out 4.5 hours of documentary viewing.
Yeah, particularly someone who's got a vested interest in filmmaking and would look at it with
himself a sports journalist.
Is it as good as the Formula One documentary?
I would say it's 3 hours of my life I'm not going to get back.
Did you not like it then, Bruce?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, you know what? I think overall, I just thought it was pretty poorly executed. I mean, actually, the style of it and the way it was filmed was good, but the content of it was quite one-sided, and I just felt they got the balance spot off in terms of like how much they focused on his upbringing and really painted a pretty bad, painted a bad image of Earl Woods, I think, and covered then the sort of subsequent fallout around his adultery and then his DUI in 2017 in quite a bit of detail, and probably dedicated all of about 5 minutes to his comeback 2018, 2019. I mean, there was actually no mention, for example, of the Tour Championship win or how his form had been building in 2018. They just kind of mentioned the Masters and cut a bit of footage in there. And it just, a couple of the guests they had on were really, really interesting and insightful. Like Steve Williams, for example, I thought he came out of it really well. And you were like, wow, okay, that did seem a bit kind of messed up, the way Tiger dismissed him. And, I think Steve Williams gave a pretty balanced picture of the whole thing. But there were other people like that Joe guy who was Earl Woods' mate, but was quite a young fella at the Navy golf course. And
the club pro.
Saying, I've got to gather myself before I give an answer. It's like, mate, you've literally been asked to do an interview here with some documentary
he went in
filmmakers.
With the crosshairs on Earl Woods there, didn't they?
You know exactly what you're going to say. Don't try and pull the wool over our eyes and pretend you're having a hard time talking about this stuff.
It's interesting you say that Steve Williams came out really well, because there's been a lot of stuff about Steve Williams and Tiger post their split, hasn't there? The accusations of racism.
Well, he was pretty scathing about him when they split, wasn't he? He wrote a book, and
I should say he didn't conduct himself that well then. I should say that.
No, but he did in the documentary. He was cool, wasn't
documentary, yeah.
So you've not watched it, Tom. If you haven't watched it, I think it's highly entertaining. My wife loved watching it. I loved watching it, obviously. It's golf related. I kind of agree with you in terms of maybe the balance around some of the topics, but I don't think it was built, it's a HBO documentary. It was built with entertainment in mind first and foremost. And I think that's probably the key thing, right? I don't think it was disparaging about Woods. I read a lot of reviews. It got a lot of airtime in America. And I thought, this is going to be like an assassination of Tiger. And it isn't, but it definitely is on Earl Woods. Like
I'm taking that Tiger wasn't associated directly, like he wasn't.
No. No. So it's based on a book. This is my take on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. But the documentary Tiger by HBO is based on a book that was written in 2018 and was shortlisted for the William Hill Book Award. It was written by Jeff Benedict and Armin Katayan. I think that's how you pronounce it.
This feels like a Google. It feels like you've just Googled.
It does feel like
no.
And I know you wouldn't do that to our listeners, would you, Bruce?
Doesn't come off the top
actually
of
not. No. I wanted to. That's from my own knowledge. I've got the book at home. If you want me to pull it out in front of a vodcast next to my shit lid, I will. But it's essentially based on that book. And that book, when it came out in 2018, Mark Steinberg, Tiger's agent, said this is the most salacious, misrepresentative take, with no consultation with the Tiger camp, blah 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 blah, blah. And he kind of reiterated the same statement because the documentary is based on that bit of work. Having said that, it sounds like Tiger fosters a very, very sort of strong or close-knit group of friends who are all obsessed with being loyal to him. That's apparently his most important attribute is that people remain loyal to him. So I think when these filmmakers approached people like perhaps Butch Harmon or Nota Bigay, they would have said, well, I'll have to check with Tiger, and if it's not okay with him, I'm not going to give you my time. So that's why I guess maybe some of the cast of characters in this documentary seem like they maybe have a bit of a bone to pick with Tiger in some sense. Like that guy Pete McDaniel, who was Earl Woods' close friend. It's weird how he's just kind of in there.
Why is he in here? You've only got 6 people to narrate it. And the other thing I found slightly weird was, it wasn't even weird. This isn't a dig at the documentary. It's just watching things back in hindsight. And it looked more surreal in hindsight than it did at the time, particularly when you've got people like Billy Paynes, the chairman of Augusta.
That was mental. That was
addressing
nuts.
a room of basically sort of white, rich, geriatric businessmen. And they're just absolutely condemning Tiger. And it was just the way the world reacted. And you thought, Jesus. Now, I don't want to get into another woke politics discussion on this pod. It does well to stay out of this podcast. But you look at it now and thought, you couldn't act like that now. Like it was just, I mean, it was essentially a character assassination that they, it's kind of a witch hunt by Augusta National.
And that's what I would say. Yeah, I would say on that note, Mills, you'd like, and for those of you who haven't seen it, there are, as you say there, Sam, like there are some moments that do seem a bit surreal, and you're like, oh my God, I can't actually remember listening to that press conference or listening to the news break in that way. I mean, the other thing that I really took away from it is just how awful like the dregs of journalism is, and like paparazzi, and how they
National
harass,
Enquirer.
like how they harassed like not only Tiger himself, but then Elin when she was going through the whole breakup and the stuff they were shouting like from across the road. And then even Rachel, you could tell. Yeah, they were like, oh my, if you
better go get an SDG check.
Yeah, it's like, it's just awful.
Absolute gutter behavior.
What people will go to get a good photo of people. Just absolute low life sort of journalistic dregs is all I could summarize as.
Gubbins.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't envy anybody who's famous. And I think it's a Bill Murray quote where he says, when people want to be rich and famous, they're like, well, try being rich for 2 years first. Because I can't imagine anything worse than being in the limelight that much, where you just accosted everywhere you want to go and don't have the ability to go down to the shops without someone screaming stuff at you just to trying to get a picture of you. I mean, I feel sorry for him. And no other golfer's had that. And I don't think, I'm not entirely convinced they ever will.
Ever will, no.
Well, there's a great line in there actually where one of his, and again, doing this in kind of air quotes, one of his close friends said that he told her his favorite place was spearfishing or scuba diving because the fish don't stare, which is quite a neat line. I mean, the fact that he was so kind of highly kind of sought after and just harassed on a constant basis. The one interesting thing that I hadn't really thought about, maybe because I was quite young at the time, and it's interesting how these time periods kind of like blur and like sort of blend into one another. But one of the journalists on there who's being interviewed just said, I think it was like a real mistake that he came out and gave that horrendous mea culpa in a, terribly fitting
with that blue
suit jacket and massive shirt collar. Yeah.
All
they were
of
kind of like, what?
Fitting.
Yeah. The collar of them was like a foot long, wasn't it? Essentially. And like, why did he need to come out and do that? Like he'd not committed a crime. It was just a real bad kind of move by his agent Mark Steinberg, I think, is what a lot of people look at it and they're like, he didn't need to come out. That was basically something that him and his wife could have sorted out.
Things you'll ever seen as well, like really bizarre. And you can only liken it back to, because we're trying to walk us out of this topic, but bring it back out and start looking at the recent Justin Thomas thing. Like if you saw Justin Thomas go and do that now, you'd be like, that's odd. And actually, there's probably a better case to answer for doing it there, because what Tiger did was really, relevant to probably a handful of people or several handfuls, depending on the extent of the women that, that you kind of wrap into it. Or, Justin Thomas maybe, as kind of, a whole sway of the society can take exception, if not all of that.
Of course. Yeah.
But even so, it was a pretty strong move, wasn't it? And it's weird to watch back. Like,
Just to wrap up on the Tiger doc, what's the verdict? Am I taking 4.5 hours out of my life to watch this?
It's not 4.5. It's 3. No. It's 3. Well, it's 2 1 hour 30-minute episodes by the looks of things. From what I remember.
Okay. Yeah. I would 100%. Well, I would 100%. So I think it also. There's some bits of Tiger's career that wasn't as aware of. I didn't realize the severity of the injury. Southern Hills when he won there in 2008. Like. That was pretty incredible to watch.
Sorry, where?
Southern Hills?
Oh, the US Open. They won that at Torrey Pines.
Was it Torrey Pines?
Yeah, in 2008. Yeah, with the broken leg. Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Yeah, well, so it's the Torrey Pines one then.
Yeah.
But there's some really good stuff in there to watch. And it is highly entertaining, but you've got to just take it with a pinch of salt that there's clearly an incentive in there to try. It's not built for
It's not built for a golf audience, is it?
No. It's built for a mainstream audience.
Yeah, it's not built for the hardcore golf enthusiasts that, this podcast probably captures a select number of, for example. I mean, one of your favorite lines in there, Mills, will be where Steve Williams is explaining Tiger playing with Phil in the final round of the 2001 Masters on the 13th. And he's like, yeah, Phil, rips this drive around the corner with a bit of fade. And Tiger decides to get in his head and he pulls out a 3-wood, which is like a club less than a driver. And he just...
And then after that, he was toast.
And, like, oh, okay.
And then they cut to a load of B-roll of Phil teeing off the 10th at the Masters. That's already happened.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this makes no sense. It can't. If he collapsed, if he completely collapsed after the 13th tee shot, why have you now shown me a video of him hitting a bad tee shot on 10?
Yeah.
Right, HBO.
So there are some inconsistencies that the hardcore golf nut will pick up on. But yeah, all in all, I mean...
Okay, so our listeners should spend at least 3 hours of their life watching the Tiger documentary.
No, I'm on the fence.
But if they're going to watch anything, they should probably tune into YouTube and watch Renaissance that dropped today.
Well, that's the thing. So you've got to start looking at how, if you get 3 hours worth of, okay, it's Tiger, and Tiger's really important, it's interesting. But actually, with that same 3 hours, you could watch both tour films at 30 minutes each at Scotland. You could watch probably our full back catalogue of Story of a Golf Club, which is circa 1 hour. And then you got an hour.
And the Malcolm Cod vodcast as well. The Malcolm Duck vodcast.
I was going to say maybe just go through one of our podcasts and maybe do some jobs around the house. And that's a better use of the time. But
yeah, maybe just spend an hour commenting nice things, smash that like button, subscribe, make sure you hit the bell.
Exactly. And considering we're saying how economical we are and mindful of other people's times rather than commandeering 3 hours of a documentary, does that wrap it up for today's pod?
I think so. It's been a good take. It's been good to have European Tour golf back, quality European Tour golf back, and it's picking up in Dubai next week. So,
plug for Tuesday as well. So we've got a double header of pods, haven't we, this week? So we've got we recorded a podcast with Mike Clayton, and Ed Cartwright from Clayton Drews and Ponce. So there's a bit of exciting news landing on that, which if you tune in on Tuesday morning, you'll be able to get some really exciting stuff. And then we have a really good discussion with them as well, don't we? So I'm looking forward to releasing that.
Yeah, it'll be good. So thank you again for listening. Please do check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And until
stay safe.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Watch this.